Thank you very much. Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. I, Manhar Rashid, on behalf of SIA-INDIA and India Space Congress, welcome you all to Day 3, Track 2 of the most spectacular conference, India Space Congress 2024. I hope you all enjoyed the amazing presentations, fiery panel discussions, and invaluable viewpoints of the expert speakers yesterday. I promise you all that today is also going to be an exciting one for all of you. I'd like to start by thanking all our speakers for joining us today, our distinguished delegates and senior government officials, guests from overseas. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, without taking any further time, let's begin the first session of the morning, which is Frontiers of Life, Exploring Intersections Between Space and Biology. Embark on a captivating journey to the frontiers of life as we explore the fascinating intersections between space and biology. Uncover how space exploration is revolutionizing our understanding of biological processes and paving the way for new discoveries. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome this session chair, Mr. Dsouza, CEO, Bioviser. Welcome, sir. He has over 17 years of experience in pharma and medical device industry. He's been a part of United Nations Outer Space Affairs Office since last 2 years. Also presented United Nations Space Education in the United Nations Policy. Welcome, sir. Everyone, please give it up for Mr. Ivan. Let's welcome our panelists on the stage with a thunderous round of applauses, starting with Mr. Ajay Kumar, Vellon Space. Welcome, sir. Please welcome Mr. Shishir Bankapur, founder Odyssey Spaceworks. Welcome, sir. Dr. Priti J. Mehta, Head Department of Pharmaceutical Analysis, Institute of Pharmacy, Nirma University. Welcome, ma'am. And last but not the least, Dr. Addanki Vamsi Krishna, Scientist, F. Department of Biotechnology. Welcome everyone, and now I'll hand over the dais to our chair, Mr. Dsouza. Over to you, sir.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the introduction. In 2007, Arthur C. Clarke insightful words highlight the remarkable progress of space exploration. At that time, humanity had already accomplished incredible achievements like landing on the moon and witnessing the birth of the International Space Station. Clarke's vision of the golden age of space has now become a reality. In the next 50 years, we will explore far beyond the Earth. Space tourism is hovering around the horizon. Just as commercial aviation revolutionized terrestrial travel, space travel will become more as common, offering us endless opportunities. Exciting new developments in space science are shaping this new thrilling era. NASA's Artemis program is aiming to land the first woman on the moon and the next man as well. Nations like China, Japan, India as well are pursuing missions to the moon, an essential stepping stone for space exploration. But our ultimate goal is Mars, a captivating destination that is getting closer to becoming a reality with NASA's Perseverance rover and SpaceX's ambitious plan to send humans to the red planet within the decade. In 2021, space tourism took off as private companies offered suborbital flights to public and organized private astronaut missions to the International Space Stations, signifying a new era of accessible space exploration. Gaganyaan will be a landmark achievement, making India one of the few nations capable of human spaceflight. The mission involves extensive preparation, including astronaut training, the development of life support system, and multiple unmanned test flights to ensure the safety and success of the manned mission. Vomitra, humanoid robot, aims to ensure the safety and effectiveness of the crew mission. Yet, space exploration is not without its unique challenges, such as cosmic radiation, vision issues, bone and muscle loss, Astronauts must face a lot of challenges in communication delays, isolation, stress, physical toll on the head as well. Understanding and reducing these dangers is a paramount for the safety and well-being of astronauts embarking on these incredible missions. Countermeasures include radiation shielding, exercise regime, cutting-edge nutrition are employed to reduce space flight risk. The careful monitoring of microorganisms, the provision of psychological support, and rigorous training are all essential in safeguarding their health. For space exploration, reliable life support are absolutely essential. International collaboration is a cornerstone for space health research because no single nation possesses all the expertise that's needed. So partnership with academic institutions and private research organizations are essential, ensuring the innovation in space medicine benefit people worldwide in healthcare and improving healthcare as well. Now about India, ISRO's cost-effective strategies have made more mission affordable, benefiting sectors like weather forecasting, disaster management, agriculture, and telecommunication. Additionally, India has forged successful international collaboration, ensuring global space research efforts. The nation also prides itself on the strong pool of talent, scientists, engineers, researchers, driving continuous innovation in space technology. These collective strengths possess India as a formidable player in the global space research arena. But there is a pressing need to focus towards biological sciences, biotechnology, and human health. Research in these areas is crucial for understanding the efforts for space travel on biological systems, bioengineering solutions, ensuring the health and safety of astronauts on a long duration mission. Increasing investment and attention in these fields will be vital for the holistic advancement of space research and exploration. With this address, I invite my panel to introduce themselves and talk about what will make India progress in the years to come. Thank you.
Sure. So I invite Vamsi to probably introduce himself and share what currently he's doing along with the progress India needs.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I am Vamsi. I am from the Department of Biotechnology from the Government of India. In DBT, I do public health nutrition, and then I also do science communication. In the space biotechnology, it has come up recently only. We have been in talks with ISRO. We had some stakeholder meetings. We are trying to develop a program. We believe exciting opportunities that exist in this area. We can work with all the stakeholders. And as Ivan said, first thing comes, how can we overcome the perils of the space travel, like radiation and low gravity or no gravity. Terrestrial organisms, how do they behave when they go to the space environment. Then there are multiple opportunities. Several pharma companies they're really putting money, like Merck, and then Merck Sharp and Doom, and then other Eli Lilly, they're putting money in drug discovery studies. And then artificially retina can be built in a better fashion in space conditions, in low gravity conditions, organ development, and then new biomaterials. So these are the things which people are working on, and we need to do a lot of catch up. And coming to the Indian perspective, very few groups are working in this area. We have a drop tower facility in IIT Madras. There is a department which comes under the mechanical engineering department who are doing such studies. And ISRO has actually funded a few studies. And even TFR Mumbai, they have developed some capabilities for launching some balloons into space to do some microgravity studies. Apart from this, ISC Bangalore, there is a small group in ISC Bangalore who is seriously working in this area. So that's it from me for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I now invite Dr. Priti Mehta to talk about pharmaceuticals and university contribution.
Thank you, Mr. Ivan, for putting a real environment of space and biology. And thanks to organizers for providing me this platform to present my views. And being an academician, we have a habit to talk and talk. But stop me if I talk much beyond my time. I am Priti Mehta. I'm heading Department of Pharmaceutical Analysis from Institute of Pharmacy, Nirma University, Ahmedabad, India. I have experience of teaching and research more than 22 years in this field, and basically trained in pharmaceutical sciences, and little bit now started working in space biology, we can say that, specifically space pharmaceuticals. So looking for the solutions which we can give to the humankind using the space platform. So to give a broader perspective to the young minds over here, and I know this is a very good platform where the people from the startups, from the government organization, as well as the academia are present. So when we talk about the biology in space, you know, everybody, first point we know is how we can sustain life in space and what type of technologies are needed when we would like to talk about short-term or long-term flights or space missions, and which are the different technologies are used for the human to sustain, how to make them, you know, survive in the space environment likewise, and different technologies are required for that. To maintain the health, to provide the food, to give the sanitation conditions, all about. Second area is what is happening to the biological system in space. So we know that the space environment is different than the Earth, and when we talk about the microgravity, radiation environment, then how the biological system respond to that space environment and how we can get the advantage of that environment for the betterment of the humankind on Earth. So few examples I would like to quote here, academician. So, you know, we all know that there is a bone loss in space when human goes to the space, and the rate of bone loss is around 1.7%, and which is the ideal condition for the development of the osteoporosis when the people are suffering from the osteoporosis on Earth. So the people are developing in the world, people are developing the model to test the drugs using the space environment in microgravity condition, and develop the drug and use it for the management of the menopausal women who are developing osteoporosis on Earth. Amgen is a very good example. They have launched one drug based on that and the monoclonal antibody, and it is working wonderfully. Another example is kidney stone development. As the calcium secretion is high, chances of kidney stone development is very high in space. This is used as a model. One of the areas we can talk about the mitigation of the development of the kidney stone, or management of the development of the kidney stone, and management of the kidney stone treatment during the space mission. Another area is what different types of drug we can test using that model. So development of the model using such technology is the area where we can work on. As Mr. Ivan rightly said, protein crystallization, it is to affect the drug in our body. It is very essential that it should bind with the receptors and to give the action. But when we try to know about the exact structure of the protein in Earth environment, then there are so many gross errors. So such type of experiments can be done in space, where you can develop the crystals, develop that type of technology where you can develop the crystal in space and then use for the drug discovery on Earth. People are right now talking about synthetic biology, genetic modification of plant material for the development of the medicines. Even it is reported that when we take the microbes in space, then due to this genetic modification in the microbes, they express differently. So secondary metabolites or antibiotic production can be increased in space, which we use drug on Earth. So these are the different aspects which we can use for the further, as a commercial activity using the space platform. We know that the technology which we use for the development of antibiotic on Earth is different. The technology we use for the production of antibiotic and the analysis of antibiotic on space will be different. So technological development for such type of activity also a boon for the startups. And that can be used by the pharmaceutical industries for checking their drugs. So I feel that space and biology, when we talk about the biology and space, it is not a confined area. All people from different background, hardware engineers, software engineers, basic science people, pharmaceutical people, might be chemical engineers, everybody has to work together. Then we can contribute very, very effectively for this area in India. Thank you for patient listening.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Priti. I invite Shishir, based in the West, and share his ideas on the R&D platform to the audience here.
Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Shishir Bankapur. I'm the CEO of Odyssey Spaceworks. We build, these biolab satellites that can grow biological material in space. And we grow them in space for accelerating product development for industry. Our customers mainly come from pharmaceuticals and cosmetic industry. The reason, why we exist as a company is because in the West, there has been decades of research and decades of microgravity as a platform available to researchers where they're now starting to commercialize some of these efforts. I'll give you an example of a mission. So last year we had a mission. We have a satellite in orbit right now that's growing animal muscle tissue so that we can understand muscle degeneration, both during space flight, but also to develop solutions here on Earth against it. Future missions that that we're flying in our biolab satellites include things like as Dr. Mehta mentioned, tumor organoids, so that we can understand what the effects of mutations and cancer formations are. And some of these companies are both cancer research organizations, but also pharmaceutical companies who have approved drugs in the market. There are governments involved as well. So the government of New Zealand, they're looking to grow novel biomaterials. So one of the things of microgravity is that because the physical forces of gravity are absent, you can arrange biology in unique geometries. And by arranging these biological systems in unique geometries, you're able to do things like capture more carbon, have more nutrient dense material for food security. You're able to develop new strains of microbes, to either produce additional biologics, be it insulin or antibodies or everything in between. And the West is now just starting to commercialize them. So I think, from our perspective, India is such an exciting point where we have this huge swath of pharma companies. We're one of the largest vaccine manufacturers in the world, and there has never been access to microgravity for profit before, at least in India. And even in the US, it's just starting to come about. So I think we're at that point where it makes a lot of sense for both government and private players to collaborate, using both R&D platforms or manufacturing platforms, to bring about further opportunity. Because as I truly believe, and I'm confident everyone here also truly believes, along with the panelists, that yes, the space economy is super exciting. However, to really grow it, to really ensure that human space flight or life in space is inevitable, we have to support the industries that support life. And the way we support industries is to make sure that they have a reason, they have a very commercial reason to go to space. And some of those challenges are being met today by companies like ours, by other commercial endeavors in Europe and beyond, where they can actually accelerate their product development, bring their products to market faster, and the sort. I'm happy to talk more, but that's a quick introduction of what I do and how I think.
Thank you very much. And I invite Ajay to talk about the infrastructure in terms of the R&D opportunities from the government or the scalability that is available in India.
Thanks, Ivan, for this introduction. So this is Ajay, the founder and CEO of a company called Vellon Space. So we are an Indian space infrastructure startup. To just give in one word, so we build workspace in space. So our infrastructures are likely kind of an autonomous platforms to carry out experimentations, research, which comes under microgravity, radiations, and these stuffs. So we build end-to-end products and then the platforms to carry out experimentations in space. So Vellon kindly focus on a kind of all varieties of experiments from material science, biological, pharmaceutical, and electronic manufacturing in space. And biology is something is already there in India, and then there are a lot of opportunities available in India to take these experimentations to space and create a research or a portfolios of research can be conducted in space and bring them back to Earth to accelerate the R&D that is already happening on Earth. But whatever we speak right now is not something new, and most of these things has been already been done in space, and which is still in the stage of getting scalable and commercialized. So the reduction of cost of launch, which increases various possibilities for these non-space industries, particularly the pharmaceutical and bio industries, give them an opportunity to take their experimentations to space and provide them a long duration experimentation possibilities under microgravity environment to create or build something that is unable to manufacture or develop on Earth. So we are the enablers from India, and we build labs, and then we are also working closely with various research institutes in India, and we're able to see a lot of interest between the research institutes, both private and government, and then the industries, the pharma and bio industry is showing a lot of interest in scaling up this research in space. Yes, thanks Ivan for this. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajay. And I just go back to Vamsi. I'd probably talk about the India Space Policy 2023, and space health research is part of the policy. But the work mostly done today is most in the physical sciences and engineering field. What proposition you think will help us move towards a space policy that's already existing for space health, and what inputs that you would like to share with this audience?
I think, as I said earlier, there is a lack of infrastructure across the country. We don't have access to microgravity-based research, and then the participation from the industry is very, very minimal. I spoke with Ajay the other day. There are only 3 to 4 startups who are into the space research, and this sector is just opening up, and we need more academicians to the pitch in, and then government is working towards that end. We have already done a stakeholder meeting, and shortly something good is going to happen. And even there are several opportunities for the pharma industry, and maybe we need to tap in the bigger pharma guys in the country. For example, Madam spoke about protein crystallization, and some groups across the world, in ISS, they are trying to make an artificial retina, which already one prototype has been developed. It seems, when you work on space, the manufacturing process is really easy and the scaffolding is better. And we have some groups in our country. Dr. Shishir is over here, and a couple of experiments from our DBT, they have been shortlisted to be tested on ISS. So Dr. Shishir has a couple of microalgae where they're going to test how they're going to behave in ISS. And Dr. Arvind was supposed to come here from INSTEM. INSTEM is an institute in Bangalore. He is trying to understand how the muzzle is going to behave in the harsh space conditions now. So we are just deliberating still. Something good is going to come up shortly. and we are in touch with our academia. The only bottleneck is the industry has to come up. We need to do something for that and plan out properly before we get into this sector.
Thank you, Vamsi. I think thanks for sharing that and having more ideas on terms of research in these areas to come in. My question is now for Dr. Priti Mehta, specifically on the collaboration aspect between space agencies and medical institutes and research universities. How we can foster, because the scarcity of talent exists in India. And how do you think it's scalable? How do you think, what strategies should the collaboration should initiate so that it will benefit the future companies that will be coming here?
Very right question, that human resource is very, very scanty in India in this segment. And it is, if we would like to have a successful such type of missions, it is very essential to have a trained human resource or manpower who have interest to do work in this area. So I think government can play a very big role in this. When they do funding, it should be, together. It should be in a partnership mode to academia, to industry, as well as they should have funding for human resource development where easy mobility is there, even training the human resources outside India where already such type of activity is going on and labs are there. So if we can train the human resources there, which help us further, collaboration with the different industries which are overseas. Here also in the panel we have different people from the different country, and it is really good that if we can collaborate in this way, then it helps us to grow in this field very fast. So the inertia which we have in India right now, little bit about the interaction between the academia and industry, that should be balanced, that should be reduced by putting together efforts together to work on programs or projects which is really have commercial value instead of doing the work only for the research purpose. So that type of understanding, if the research organizations and the academic institutes can build, then this problem can be shorter.
Thank you, Dr. Priti Mehta. I have a question for Shishir, specifically as you see in the West, right? There's a robust regulatory framework which is already there for human space flight, human subject trials. In India, what I understand is that there's a DCGI framework for human clinical trials that happen on Earth. What are your suggestions? Because we are going to go for the Gaganyaan, and there would be requirements for building a human space flight, manned projects. In terms of the regulatory framework, which is non-existing today, of course, we have a space policy, which is having a space health kind of as part of the policy as well. But I think the framework doesn't exist. And what are your thoughts on this as well?
No, that's true. So there's a lot of regulatory, I guess, guidelines that are available in the West, especially for human spaceflight. However, the regulations and the regulatory bodies have not caught up to manufacturing in space, and they have not caught up to actually doing, a later phased clinical trial or a grown organoid in space. Primarily because, up until now, or a year or two ago, everything was just based on the basic science, the basic R&D, and now when it's starting to get commercialized, and we now see sort of like things that are manufactured in space, like artificial retinas, or stem cells for that matter, being brought down and used in humans. That's when the regulatory bodies have basically gotten a wake-up call. Is okay, how do we do this? How do we never thought this was possible, and now it's something that's coming up. When we look at India, it has a very robust medical and regulatory and pharmaceutical framework. However, I think from my perspective, it needs to develop its own path in terms of understanding human spaceflight. It needs to develop its own path in terms of like what is manufactured in space and how we use it in in humans or for humans, and that's particularly because India has its own sort of like way of doing things or solving problems or things like that. So I'll give you an example. For human space flight in the West, in the US especially, you have a 24-hour medical team dedicated to each astronaut or each person in orbit. In Russia, for example, cosmonauts don't get afforded that same privilege. There's a lot of data that comes back to NASA from monitoring human health in space. And by doing that, we've realized things like, livers and kidneys grow much larger in space. Or if you have a disease and you need to take some medication, you have to take either a lot more or not at all because it's not effective. So I think there needs to be India should be at the forefront of developing what I want to call, sort of like the FDA or the regulatory body for medicines and pharmaceuticals in space, where you can actually, set the standards for, drugs in space. You can set the standards for things that are manufactured in space and used in humans. The one thing that India has, an advantage over the West is it's basically starting afresh at the same point where the West is also starting afresh. So the West has never commercialized these opportunities before. They're starting to now. India can rely on the decades of research that NASA or other countries have done for the basic science, which is publicly available, and then use that to apply that for human spaceflight or pharmaceuticals or any other manufacturing in space.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you want to add some more?
Yeah. So I want just to add from an Indian perspective, thanks to the government of India and then the Department of Science and Technology and space technology and departments, the policies are more friendly enough. There are a couple of things need to be worked on, or a couple of things need to be looked into. One is to do experimentations in space, and bring the data back to Earth. We do have a good regulatory bodies and then policies are there. But these research, whatever we are going to do in the next few years, is going to get commercialized, or is going to get commercialized either in space or on Earth. And at that time, you need to bring the samples back to Earth, and where we always look into, the re-entry policies, where both, DST and then civil aviation comes into picture. So there should be a proper policy to, ensure you have a re-entry capacities of these samples back to Earth. And once this has been re-entry has been done, and you need to have the post-processing of these samples in a very nearby facilities near to the launch site, where you need to also have the clinical trials policies. So these are a couple of things where inter-ministry or inter-department collaborations should happen, and then they need to figure out these kind of things to, before human space flight or, unhuman space flights has been, missions have been, initiated in India. Yeah.
Well, I have a follow-up question for you, Ajay. I think there's a lot of discussion on space exploration and sustaining a life in space for a longer time. Both nutrition and manufacturing have to happen together, right? In contract manufacturing as well. I want to know your thoughts on how if you think about there's a roadmap on how contract manufacturing in space should be, and what are your thoughts on that?
Good question. So, Vellon, we focus on basically commercializing or making a product in space and bring it back to Earth and make them useful for the humans. So in that perspective, any research you take to space, it minimum needs 7 to 8 missions in the space and provide them a long duration of experimentation in the space, so that it gets matured in the space and you can use it for various applications. In that perspective, we see there are 3 to 4 different phases. The first phase where you try to understand the basic science, and in the second phase you understand how the science can be multiplied into different aspects in terms of different samplings. And once the samplings have been done in space, and then you need to do a post-processing of these experimentation on Earth for various clinical trials, and understand how industries can basically use these applications for products like what recently you must know that between 2017 to 19, Merck has done an in-space experimentation for a particular anti-cancer studies, and that drug brought back to Earth, and they have used the same formulation for the R&D that is already happening on Earth, and now it's one of the best-selling cancer drugs in the Earth. So that is how we see, these any research that we take to space will be in two different categories. One is it might be a new innovation which can be scaled up, and there would be another thing. There is another possibility that there is already an existing drug or existing medicine where it can enable much more better quality or much more better efficiency, like new vaccines that can solve various problems, and a new crystallization growth of proteins which can solve the issues, where it needs repeated flights and repeated availability and access to these space environments to carry out the experimentations and bring them back to Earth for commercial applications.
Thank you very much, Ajay. I think also the talks on gene expression, gene manufacturing, and other things can also come in. My question is to any of the panelists out here is about space tourism, and making India a leading player in space tourism can be a possibility because of the cost-effective advantages, and also about developing of new advances in space health technologies that can benefit not only people in the space but also on Earth. And you have thoughts on how the roadmap should be, what the benefit should be. Any one of you?
I think one of the biggest things when we talk about space tourism, and when we talk about what the roadmap should be, I think the focus should start with women. Up until now, there have been a little over 600 people who've been to space. A little over 15 were women. As a consequence, we know very little about what happens to women's health in space. And one of the things that people in the U.S. or in the private sector are talking about is opening up, or really sort of like opening up the gates to commercial space tourism and bringing that cost down, which will lead to a lot more people in space, and by consequence also women in space. So when we are looking at what the roadmap should be, it should start with what the health effects and mitigation is for women. I think from an Indian perspective, you're absolutely right. The cost effectiveness is there. We have some of the biggest talent pools to actually make this possible. One of the things that, in addition to women's health and space health in general, is trying to understand what works and what doesn't work in space. And that's why I come back to this thought that we do need some regulatory body that can sort of oversee drugs in space or oversee health in space. I'll give you a very good example. So there was a group of Canadian students. They did a study at the ISS about EpiPens or epinephrine. It's used whenever you go into allergy or anaphylactic shock. You inject someone with epinephrine, and that sort of like overcomes their allergy, which is severe enough to cause your throat to close, things like that. Usually linked with autoimmune disease. Now, these students sent epinephrine to space, and what they found was, once they've been to space and they brought it back and they tested it, all of them were inert, and 4 of them were toxic. So at best, this thing that's supposed to save your life will do nothing. At worst, it will kill you. So I think there needs to be a lot more study in terms of what exists and how we can, combat, health issues in space. Because if you, look at from a commercial standpoint, the people who, can afford, at least in the next 10 years to go to space, will be older, possibly with a lot of health issues. And unlike national space programs, where only the fittest go, anyone, who has a big enough bank account can go. So I think, it starts with how do we sustain life? How do we, keep these people alive and bring them back safely? I think it starts there.
Thank you very much. Yuvraj.
Yeah. I am very much optimistic about space tourism in our lifetime. In terms of going to space and coming back, to see the Earth from there and then come back, it will be very, very possible in India also within our lifetime. So I think we have all over the world that technologies are there. Now, how we can optimize it to make it more, economical for the people to use it, that only part we have to work on. Yeah, to be habitable on other planet, or to sustain on other astronauts, might be it will take time. Thank you.
To add on to Shishir, to sustain for a long time in space travel, you need to figure out the cognitive deficits, the bonus option, the changes the human body is going to take through. Then we require a continuous source of potable water, the waste management system, and a way to somehow take in the oxygen and give a constant supply of oxygen. When all these issues have to be worked out now before we venture into the space tourism. And food is a big issue. We need to develop, some sort of mechanism to preserve the food. Apart from preservation, the food also should be able to retain the nutrient value. These are the issues which we have to tackle.
I think there's a very good point you mentioned about water, water purification and nutrition, because, as a country, we also face a lot of water issues, and the kind of technologies that develop in space can be implemented for on the people on Earth as well. So, very good point. And now we open the floor for any questions you have, and we segmentize based on universities, if you have some basic science or space tourism, so we will direct it accordingly. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vamsi. My concern is that every year we emitting 37 billion ton of CO2, and there is a layer of our Earth atmosphere, a big layer of carbon dioxide is there. Not sure. It's like 40% permanently there. So when sunlight is coming, they're not able to go. That's why the Earth is getting warmer. So is there any technology can be developed that the CO2 can be directly, carbon capture could be directly from there? Like algae could be one system that could capturing it, producing biomass. That biomass, Dr. Vamsi said, there will be nutrition foods for if somebody is staying in space. So some kind of this kind of technology, fusion technology could be developed. So that's my point. If you can
it's a very good startup idea, actually. But I just direct the question to Vamsi.
I think, I believe carbon capture in such a huge scale is a really big task. No? The enormity of the challenge is really, really huge. And the climate is changing really fast. And people like you, we have to come up with ideas. No? So we can only fund it. we can throw some ideas to you. I don't know. The carbon capture thing, it's a really, really interesting thing and very intriguing also. And
I think the base of research has already been done in terms of carbon capture in the environment as well. Maybe that can explorate it and see how those similar mechanisms can be used for filtering and capturing that carbon. So it's a good idea. It has to be researched on, is acted on, funded on. And the people, startups in the room can think about this idea as well, because it is causing an impact to the health on Earth as well. So thank you.
Adding on to that, away from the discussion, if there is a huge volcanic eruption, it releases so much sulfuric acid into the atmosphere, it ultimately cools down that. I mean, there have been instances in the past. So we don't know, we don't understand the systems. And capturing carbon at such a huge level, we cannot imagine.
But I can only relate how the plastic has been taken from the ocean today, and there are so many technologies coming. I'm sure there will be future technologies that can come.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that as well. One of the ways we can actually fight that or capture carbon is by utilizing the conditions in space to evolve organisms that can capture carbon more efficiently. There are efforts that the government of New Zealand is doing to develop new kinds of plant material. There's efforts in France to develop new kinds of plants in space. There's also efforts to grow unique kinds of fungi that can eat plastic, that can shield from radiation, for both use as building material or just shielding in general. So I think in addition to just thinking of that top layer, I think there has to be this effort to use these conditions in microgravity, to use cosmic radiation to evolve and create new kinds of carbon capture systems.
Any other question? Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. So I'm from the bioelectronics background. So we've been talking about pharma and everything. So is there any kind of technology? Since you mentioned about Gaganyaan and space tourism, so obviously we have to detect their vitals, right? So if there is any kind of technology like remote health monitoring systems for astronauts or maybe tourists, so that before even knowing, like predictive health monitoring kind of technologies.
Yeah, there is already predictive technology. In fact, the suit that the astronaut is wearing is, having motion sensors and biomarker sensors that record information that's transmitted to the Earth. There is also predictive modeling of the health parameters before, during, and after the flight. And then there's a whole understanding on what impact that the human body faced while in space. So this exists. There are a lot of published papers available on the kind of work that has been done by NASA for the last 50 years. So it exists. It exists to answer your question.
To have a quick look, you can go to the ESA website. There the wearable devices is there, where they are showing that which different vitals you can measure. Even NASA has developed the system where they can track the medicines taken by the astronauts. So it is not like that. It is very, very essential that what medicines they have taken, at what time they have taken, and whether they have to take the repeat dose or not, that also they are measuring. Even food they have taken, at what time they have taken, so everything is recorded and they have all data. So such type of technology is there. Now in India, how much we have to develop indigenous, that we have to see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Shishir here. So my question would be for you both. As a part of emerging space company, or we call it as space biotech or space life science companies, what are the challenges that you guys face when it comes to commercialization or attracting the investment for space bio research?
Maybe I'll add some points and then probably add you to Shishir. I think commercialization form parts of it, like it is about you have a company, you have a long-term vision of going to space tourism or developing a rocket and creating an environment for people to be on space. You have to build in commercialized aspects of inventions in the pathway, right? So what are the new technologies you can develop, like space suits, better equipments to record, what kind of diagnostic tools you can bring in. So there are a whole scheme of things that exist. There are some failures as well in diagnostics, certain things that don't work in space. So the approach that you will take is what works, what not works, and see what can be commercialized and what is investment heavy, and what kind of capital you can generate. based on that decision. But I'll Shishir, right?
So, when you see from an an Asia Pacific side, there are 5 segments which can easily has a lot of potential in terms of microgravity research. Which can be simplified into 2 things. One is the crystallization side itself, and then the tissue culture side, which can come under again cell culture, stem cells, biomanufacturing, bioprinting, and then organoids. See, these are the areas where industries are looking for space as a tool. So space is going to be a new tool for them to understand how these research can be potentially commercialized. And second thing is we need to exactly understand what the industry needs. The industries which is working on R&Ds on these sectors should give us the requirements so that we could identify where these research are actually happening. For example, take IIT Madras. IIT Madras does a lot of research, and these research, out of 5 research, couple of research would have actual commercial value where industry needs. So these kind of research can either reduce their cost or the time to develop new drugs or medicines in space. So there is a market, there is a lot of opportunities are there. At the same time, we need to understand the actual needs from the industries to think about how we can develop the platforms and then the instrumentations for each platforms.
Sure. The question was very interesting. The real challenge that we see from, at least I'm going to talk from our customers' perspective. The real challenge we saw with them early on was to crystallize sort of this idea of what is their return on investment. Because they might have flown to the ISS a few times, they might have space experience, but no commercial entity is going to wait 4 years for a launch, is not going to wait 5 years for something to develop. They want their results yesterday, right? So to translate all the research that happens into very concrete return on investment, I think will always be a challenge, and that's particularly because the platforms didn't exist before. They're just coming about. We're just showing the potential of what can be done in space. And so as time goes on, I think that'll be more of the common knowledge, and more people will participate. But I think the challenge has always been up until now is making sure that the aerospace companies fit the pharma or the bioscience needs rather than the other way around. We should cater to them. We should understand their processes. And that's where some of the challenges have been.
Just a few things to add is that when you commercialize it, you've got to look at from the whole holistic approach of your research should fit the commercialization aspect, the hub and spoke model, right? So what you're making should fit in the long-term basis as well. So when you commercialize, make sure that your science meets the future requirements of the country. And specifically on the government missions, basically if the government is visioning to approach Gaganyaan, so you build products and services around the requirements of the future customers that I would suggest. I think we are done of time. Thank you everyone for your attention. We'll be happy to answer questions on an individual basis after this as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This indeed was an exciting and power-packed session. I extend my sincere gratitude to all my panelists. Thank you so much for taking our time, sharing your expertise with all of us. And now I request our session chair, Mr. Dsouza, to kindly present a memento to all our panelists, starting with Mr. Ajay Kumar. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. To Mr. Shishir Bankapur. Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Priti J. Mehta. Thank you very much, ma'am. And lastly, to Dr. Addanki Vamsi Krishna. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. I request Mr. Rajiv Gambhir, Senior Director, SIA-INDIA, to kindly join us on the stage and present a memento to our session chair, Mr. Dsouza.
I'll speak with you in a moment. Thank you, all of you, for coming up up with this wonderful discussion. Thank you, Alan, for engaging all of them and giving us this insights. Last year, we had a very broad discussion on the subject. This year, we have telescopic zoom on one aspect, but still quite wide. Maybe we could zoom in further. Maybe we could have an interactive workshop where we have the pharmaceutical industry, who are the user groups, tell them about the applications that are being done and look at ideas from them as to how they would like to engage with the sector. So those are the things that we would love to do. We would love to maybe have our space session in a pharmaceutical conference. Yeah. So, Dr. Vamsi, I'll need your help in engaging with that sector. Thank you so much. Thank you. I see Mr. Govindraj here. Mr. Govind, sir, please. I would, if you permit, I would like Mr. Govindraj to do the honors. Sir, please. These are board of members of SIA-INDIA. Please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I request everyone to please come forward for a group photograph. You all can come in the front. I request everyone not to leave because we have the next session which is going to begin shortly. Thank you very much to all our lovely panelists. Moving further, ladies and gentlemen, may I have a privilege of listening to our next set of esteemed panelists who will be conducting a session on enabling satellite IoT ecosystem, infrastructure and connectivity solutions. Unlock the potential of the satellite IoT ecosystem with groundbreaking innovations in connectivity and data transmission. Explore how satellite transmission is revolutionizing IoT technology across industries, from remote asset tracking to environmental monitoring, paving the way for a more connected and efficient world. Ladies and gentlemen, please join your hands and welcome our session chair, Mr. Arun Agarwal, DTG, Satellite DOT. Mr. Agarwal. Welcome, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to our panelists, Mr. Gianluca Ridolfi, CCO, Sateliot. Welcome, sir. Mr. Jaswant Singh, Lamhas. Welcome, sir. And Mr. Prasanna S. Iyengar, Senior Director, Product Management, Skylo Technologies. Welcome, sir. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. I would now hand over the dais to our session chair, Mr. Arun Agarwal, sir. Over to you, sir.